Peace and blessings, everybody. Welcome to an episode of Politically Street. I'm your community ambassador, Mr. Robin J. Anderson. Before I get started, I'll give my disclaimer. Politically Street is not a politically endorsing podcast. We're here for information purposes only. On Politically Street, I interview business owners, community leaders, and our elected officials. So with that being said, let's get the microphone together. With that being said, I have this young lady here. I consider her like my auntie, my political auntie out here in these streets, man. She's been around for a while, been anchored in, and I watched her from afar, and I've admired what you've done, you know. Mrs. Kathy Buford-Daniels, all right?
Thank you.
Wait a minute, this microphone was acting. There we go. Okay, all right. So, Ms. Buford-Daniels, how are you?
Thank you. I'm doing well.
Okay.
Glad to be in the Fofo.
Mm-hmm.
Although I have family out here too, but
Okay.
just not out here as often as I'd like. Mm-hmm. They had a big Easter celebration, as a matter of fact, at my aunt's house this weekend, and we were out of town, so I missed it. And
I think in Vegas. I'm a little jealous, I think. I just told you.
Yeah. After recouping the last 6 weeks from knee surgery, knee replacement. And then my husband and I decided to take a couple of days and get away. And we went to Vegas, but not so much for the excitement of gambling, but because we have family there as well. So we did Easter with family up there.
Okay, good deal. So I'm not sure if you follow my podcast. So what I do first, I like to get a background of people to know how you grew up, and then we're going to get to where we are now. Now, I do that for a reason, because I want people to know that just because if you had a troubled past or whatever else, where you are now, anything can happen. You can, as long as you just, go the path, follow your purpose, everything will be fine,
Honey, let me just say, nephew, but for God, I didn't get caught doing some of the things that I did, that I would probably not be sitting here today. I would not be an elected official, and I never forget that.
Right.
I promise you.
Well, you can share as much as you want, but so where'd you grow up?
I grew up in Fifth Ward,
Nickel, all right.
Fifth Ward, Texas. Went to Wheatley High School, old school cheerleader back in the day.
Okay.
So I've been around for a while. After I left there, when I grew up in Fifth Ward, then of course, like most people in that era, got married, had children, and moved out. Got divorced, moved out, and was a single parent for a number of years. I worked for the post office for almost 30 years.
Now, which station were you at? Were you at the main?
I was at the main office.
Wow, you might know my cousin. Her name was Karen Lambert.
I know Karen.
Yeah, that's my cousin. Yeah.
She's, as a matter of fact, she used to work for me.
Wow.
When I was a supervisor.
Wow.
She did. But yeah, I've been around for a very long time. And I thank God for it, because a lot of people can't say anything.
That's true.
We know, those of us that are still here, a lot of people didn't make it. So I'm grateful for that. But I did almost 30 years there. And then I retired in 2008, 2 years after the mistaken identity murder of my son in 2006, my only son. So that sort of propelled me into trying to make a difference. And, various things encouraged people to be engaged. Some for personal reasons, some
good point.
To uplift themselves. But mine was primarily because I wanted, one, keep my son's name in the forefront. Two, he was murdered by someone who had dropped out of school, so education became an important factor for me. It was a block or so from my house. He'd never been in a penitentiary, never been in jail, in a church choir, etc. And I know this is not about my son, but I'm giving his background because
it's
I want
important.
people to understand that even in death, I'm still a mama bear for my son, and fighting for him and for his name to remain relevant. That being said, because someone was a coward and thought he was somebody else and walked up behind him and took his life.
Wow.
So that's how I became committed. My brother, Joe Ballard, a lot of people know my brother, Joe Ballard, from Fifth Ward and from out here, all over the city. But my little brother, Joe Ballard, encouraged me to go to city council. And so 2 weeks after my son was murdered, I was at city council encouraging them to create ordinances to protect the people that go into those stores. Because that's what happened. He went into a store, came right out, was getting back in his car. Somebody walked up behind him and killed him.
Yeah, like I said, that's cowardice. It really is.
It was, and it was a life snipped that we all lost. I said we all lost, meaning he was such a gift to society in general that we all lost. So from that was my commitment that started the gateway into being engaged in community activities.
Right.
I was already a supervisor / manager after a number of years at the post office, so I had the background and the expertise to be able to address people and audiences, etc. And I didn't know God was preparing me then for what He had for me to do later. So I had all that training and background.
And this is 2006, you said, right?
2006, but correct, is when he was murdered.
Gotcha,
but prior to that,
going forward,
prior to that, I was in management for a number of years.
Right.
And that management allowed me the opportunity to get a lot of training that people paid for in college. And so the post office paid for me and others to get it. And that was my preparation to be that voice, to be able to address audiences and speak in public, etc. And so with that, I used that tool to speak up for those people in the community, because I realized growing up in Fifth Ward and all around the city, I've been here all my life, all around the city, our issues are pretty much the same.
I agree.
In Fifth Ward, the Fofo, Pleasantville,
Sunnyside, all of them,
the same. And so oftentimes people would call me as I became more and more engaged and ask, or tell me, Kathy, we had some people that were just put out of the house to get ready to sell the property. So people would bring their issues to me, and I would always try to find some type of a resolve or to give some direction. So again, just being engaged. And so because of my activism, not just in Fifth Ward, because I was out here I was out here working with Reverend Gibbs when you guys were looking for somebody who had raped a young girl out here.
I remember that,
passing out flyers. And so then I didn't have the knee problems I have now. So I was helping to walk the neighborhood. And so from there, after I retired in 2008, then becoming engaged in community activities and being that voice, going to City Hall, speaking up and speaking out in various doors that were opened for me. From that, in 2007, well, actually, prior to that, I was super neighborhood president.
Oh, okay.
In Fifth Ward.
Okay.
I was Fifth Ward, Greater Fifth Ward Super Neighborhood president from 2014 to 2017.
Okay.
And from that, a lot of people don't realize that we started the investigation from my back porch.
Wow.
Of the cancer cluster, what's considered the cancer cluster now.
Can you expound on it? I know. Well, we'll come back to it, but I know that what happened out there, because we have some they call the bottoms down there in Acres Home, and they're saying that's going to be a cancer cluster too, because there used to be a dump site down there.
It probably will, and I'm sure I'll hear from Ruby Glass.
Right.
A pretty good friend of mine.
Ruby, where are you?
Ruby, where are you?
Yeah, but no, Ruby, she lost her mom a few years ago, man. It's something about losing mom. You know what I mean? And so but I understand her plight.
It is. We lost ours last year, a year ago.
Wow.
Matter of fact, this month. But anyway, so because I was so vocal out there as a super neighborhood president, and we actually fought Metro when they were doing the reimagining. A lot of people out here in the 4-4 didn't know it, but Sylvester and I talked about that when he was running for mayor the first time.
Okay. Oh, wow.
And from our super neighborhood perspective, because we were so engaged with them changing the routings, like they did in all of our communities, a lot of times, I mentioned about, and I hate to be going back and forth.
No, you're fine. You're fine.
A lot of times, we move in areas where we have access to the bus. We did back in the day.
Right.
And when I bought my first house at 23 back in 1984, I think it was, I bought it because it was close to a bus stop. And so if my car broke down, being a single parent, I'd be able to have transportation. Well, all those things considered, so when Metro started doing the reimagining and changing the routing, they were changing the numbers. 4-4, we've always known, was always associated with Acres Home.
Right.
The 77 was always associated with Fifth Ward, Cashmere Garden, and South Park.
Okay.
The reason why, because it went from South Park, a lot of people don't realize, from all the way at the end of South Park Village, all the way to City Gas, Wayside, that one bus.
Wow.
That's right. So you can imagine the impact of those of us that rode the bus out of necessity, as opposed to those that rode the bus out of accommodation.
Convenience,
Convenience. And that was one of the things that I was talking to Sylvester about when he was running the first time, because we were in that fight. I said we, meaning the super neighborhood president, the super neighborhood. And I had appointed Joetta Stevenson as the chair.
I know Ms. Stevens,
for the Metro. But in the meantime, I rode around and I took photos of the various bus stops and what they look like. We didn't even have seating in so many of them.
Wow.
So from that, all down Wayside and Homestead, I know I have a lot of long story that I don't talk about.
I didn't know this.
I don't talk about. Yeah. You know, I believe you just do the work of God and the people, so you'll be rewarded. But anyway, so we rode down. She was riding with me, and I was driving, and we were riding down Wayside and Liberty Road and Homestead. Identifying Waco, I think I mentioned that, identifying those stops that didn't have seating. And the reason why that's important, because we still had people riding the buses to City Gas Clinic, to the Medical Center, Bentop. So it's important that these people, the bus didn't, keep in mind, does not, I'm trying to paint this picture, does not come into the neighborhood anymore. So they have to walk a few blocks to get to the stop. So when you get there, there's no seating.
Right. Wow.
And one particular event I was headed to one afternoon, and there was a lady, an older lady, that, and I'm on a cane now with my bad knee, but she was on her walker.
Okay.
And she was sitting at the bus stop on that walker with an umbrella, a black umbrella in the middle of summer. So there's more heat. It was shaded, but it was more heat. I stopped my car. I went around, came back, and I said, "Do you mind if I take a photo of you?" She said, "No, baby, not so. I was going to do it for it. Well, I was going to use it for it." And I used that photo along with others that showed a broken chair propped up against the bus.
Like the sign.
The sign.
Yeah.
Because there was no seat, no covering. Nothing. So we took a number of those photos and put them all together in preparation. And I scheduled a meeting with, at that time, Tom Lambert, who was president of Metro. And our argument was the association with these bus numbers. FOFO, 77, 11 Nance, those things. And we identified, and I showed him pictures of these stops that had no seating, and I went and pulled the data. I'm a data person. That's the department I worked in the post office.
I wouldn't have guessed that.
I pulled the data of their data, and I showed each one of those stops along the way. They had on their website that showed ridership. So I pulled all that data, and I pulled it for the year before, and the current year, and I made a comparison. See, and I'll tell your audience, it's always important not just to talk about information, but to investigate and have something to document and substantiate what it is you're talking about. So I pulled that data, and I told Tom Lambert, I said, "This is based on your data. You're going to change these routings that have increased." Every one of them had increased. Maybe not a lot, but still increased.
Right.
And so I used their data, and I told them, "You're going to change our stops based on your data. We've got an increase. Why are you changing ours?" For the convenience of people riding in and out of Katy, because they were increasing that ridership and the stop increments, the stops. If you look right now at those maps at the bus stops, you'll see a red line, a blue line, a green line, a purple line in some instances. Well, the red stops, I think, were the express stops, 15 minutes. The blue stops, I think, were 30-minute intervals. Meaning the bus stopped there at 30-minute interval. Well, the green ones in our neighborhood, maybe vice versa. So don't quote me on that. 45 minutes an hour.
Wow.
Wait before the frequency. But the red ones was down I-10, back and forth down I-10, bringing people in from Katy, etc. And so they were increasing that.
Okay.
I'm like, well, you're going to increase the ones that are convenient because you have a parking lot for them. They get on a bus, they ride into downtown, whereas the people out of Acres Homes, Fifth Ward, Cashmere Gardens, Trinity Gardens, they have to wait almost an hour for a bus or go to a transit center and change bus lines. So we made those arguments. And what you all don't know, and Sylvester didn't know at that time, I know he's not here to verify, but what you all don't know at that time, we saved the FOFO, the number FOFO. Because nobody was speaking up for FOFO. And our argument was, you've got to keep these numbers associated with these communities.
I agree.
That's how we identify them.
Wow. And I'm interested because, like, it sounds as if because that area is developing and there are more tax dollars out there, so they trying to appease them out there as opposed to the people who've been Wow.
Absolutely.
Wow.
And see, again, like we just said, you had those who were riding out of necessity and those who were riding out of convenience. It's only two choices. The ones for necessity was the buses that were coming into our neighborhoods. The ones for convenience were on the main thoroughfare, and they'd go down the main line, the main lanes of I-10 or the various places to help get those people into downtown quicker. Well, what about Miss Williams, who has to catch the bus to get downtown from her neighborhood that can't walk 6 blocks?
Right.
Because she's got to go and clean up one of the hotels. You know, she's that's her job. And so now, but even with Miss Williams, the bus stops at 10 o'clock.
Wow.
And so how do they get home after 10 o'clock? After 10, and when they made all those changes, it was such an inconvenience for a lot of people. And so we stayed on top of that. From our neighborhood, super neighborhood perspective.
Now, quick question, because you mentioned super neighborhood a few times, and some people might not know, because some people are out of state, but for those that in Houston, what is super neighborhood?
The super neighborhood is it's a group that was organized by at that time Mayor Lee P. Brown, and that was for people, community leaders, to meet and bring to be the conduit between the mayor and the community itself. So you had those people that sort of were in the charge of bringing information from the communities to the super neighborhood, and then the super neighborhood takes it to the mayor.
Now, I don't know if this happened in your community, but I'm going to say it because it happened. And so, previous to super neighborhood, we had, in Lakers Home, we had civic clubs, right? And the civic club is still functioning. And I think at the time we had like 16, and you had super neighborhood that emerged. And then you had what was, to me, is a power struggle from this president and then this person. They doing this. Instead of coming together, and while these organizations were bumping heads, we had people, outside influences, coming in, buying up property, doing things that we should have been, policing, and now we have what we haven't. You know what I mean?
Honey, the same thing happens in all of our neighborhoods. It's like once some of us became the voice, others realized there were a few that had a voice and said, okay, let me get a piece of that pie. And people came in, and we have to be honest about it. Sometimes we were our own worst enemy.
That's true.
And people came in and said, oh, opportunity, let me create a CDC, or let me create a 501c3 so that I can be a part of this, and I can get funding to be able to help my organization. Some of the organizations really don't exist.
Right.
But I mean, let's be honest. But so the problem I have personally, Kathy, have with that is not being filtered down when they take the opportunity. And I'm not against anybody having taken the opportunity to get a grant, as long as you use that money to enhance the neighborhood.
Right.
That enhancement is not just calling a meeting and having pizza and saying and justifying that's why this is what I did with the money that you gave me.
Right.
I called the meeting and I bought some pizza, so I'm justified.
Domino's got rich off the black community, boy.
Correct. and then someone who didn't have a car, now they're driving a BMW.
Wow.
Or
yeah, I follow. I'm with you. It is unfortunate, but say it is what it is. But we touched on something as far as like with the taxes go, and that's kind of why I have you here today. And I want to get a backstory so people can know, okay, why is Kathy Buford-Daniels in this position and what is she doing? So you're elected official now. Congratulations.
I am elected official. Thank you.
And the position is? I
am the Harris Central Appraisal District Board of Directors, position 1. There were 3 positions last legislation in the 88th legislation that was created for we know it as HCAD. It used to be Harris County Appraisal District, but it's Harris Central Appraisal District. Now they just changed the name, so it won't be associated with the county, but it's still the same organization.
Okay.
So those positions were created. There were 3, and we had to run for those positions. Now, granted, at that time, I was
is it citywide or statewide? Or?
It's citywide.
Okay,
all over the city. It's not District A, B, C.
It's all of them.
It's the entire district.
Gotcha.
Excuse me. And so with that being said, with those 3 positions, then it's a nonpartisan position, supposedly.
Right.
And we didn't put what our choice of
affiliation
was, but it was pretty obvious when we ran. And of the three, I was the first one. I was the first one selected without a runoff.
Gotcha.
So part of that, excuse me, is because, as I mentioned, you know, the person that murdered my son was a dropout, right?
Okay.
So because of that, then I got into that education piece, and I was the HISD trustee.
I remember that.
For this area out here, inclusive Booker T. Washington, etc. Booker T. Washington, Cashmere, Wheatley, and North Forest, and all those feeder patterns.
Okay.
Well, again, I saw the issues, and all this is tied together, Robin. You said, why am I all over the place?
I know, no, I get it.
I'm all over the place because the education piece, as I drove down West Montgomery and up Ferguson, up Little York, I see all the townhouses.
Check.
With the children. A lot of people are moving here from out of state. That impacts our taxes. So all this is tied together. You say, okay, well, we want to talk about taxes, yeah, but if our neighborhoods are drying up of children, then there goes our schools.
Yep.
There goes our schools and affordability of remaining in the neighborhood. I used to come out here. My grandmother lived right there on Deep Priest, and my aunt lives here now. But even coming out here, I had so many friends growing up out here because there was children everywhere.
There was,
even in my neighborhood, in Fifth there was children everywhere. Heck, it was 9 of us in one house. And there was a lot of children everywhere. But we lost that, especially when people started moving in. And we want to improve our neighborhoods.
We do.
We want to improve our neighborhood.
I agree.
But they came in with these astronomical prices these developers started selling these properties for. They started selling these properties for at that time in Fillmore, $250,000 and up. This was 15 years ago. And now they're in excess of $300,000. So our little homes that we had that have been passed down historically through our grandparents, etc., that were worth, because this used to be the place to live, and that's why they pounced on Texas and Houston. I remember I built a new house, a brand new house, in 1997, right in Humboldt 45. I'm sorry, 59, for less than $100,000.
I was gonna say about 110, bro.
Yeah, less than 100,000. Big square foot, large lot. Now that house is worth almost $300,000.
Wow.
And it's because the properties, when I ran for District B back in 2011, people weren't listening. And I said, guys.
That was a good one, Jerry Davis. Okay,
that's right. And I was the only woman in that race. There was 8 of us, and I was the only one. I came in 3rd.
Wow.
I almost didn't count, though.
I remember, it's, I remember that, though, yeah.
And one of the things I was saying then, 2 things, actually. Y'all, the only thing District B has to really offer people, the reason why people are running and they have their eyes on District B is because our property. And where our location is to the airport in downtown Houston, people weren't listening. And the second thing that I tell you, I'm analytical, so I was looking at the data. The second thing that I was trying to tell people about is we didn't have deed restrictions. And I was telling people, y'all, Chapter 42 is going to hurt us.
Wow.
And it wasn't even on the book yet. It hadn't been voted on. It came on in 2013. So I was saying, Chapter 42, it's not going to be good for our communities if you don't have a community agreement. It didn't have to be a deed restriction, just some type of community agreement. Start it now, get it with the city, have it on record, so that if you want to go back and modify it, at least you'll already have it on record prior to Chapter 42 being an ordinance.
Let me ask you a question, because in Garden City Homes is one of all the communities and whatnot. There was a house that was, and let's say we imposed what you just said, right? And a person comes in and they go and they do against the ordinance. How do you enforce that? You say, come tear this house down. Like, how do you enforce that?
That's a good question. I don't have the answer for that. I think that if we had started that before, then we could probably. I'm just assuming. There has to be a process that could be utilized through the city of Houston if the guidelines were already previously accepted before someone comes in and does something outside of what our description is for our neighborhood. So.
Gotcha. Now, I just asked the question because we have some issues like that now.
That's a good question.
You know what I mean? And so, because when a person is being kicked out that's the sheriff in or constable, like, is that the same process? But let's look into that.
That's a good, that's excellent question. And see, the thing about it is, what we don't have a lot of in our neighborhoods, that some of the others have in some of the West Side neighborhoods, they have a lot of attorneys that are willing to go in there and fight for their communities. We don't have that here. Not to say we don't have attorneys, but they won't step up and try and help us fight the different grievances that we have in our community. Even with the cancer, where I mentioned about the cancer cluster. The creosote issue, we live a block away from it, and for the most part, all of you all see on TV is a group of other people. Well, we initiated that when and the reason why we initiated it, because I had film and I was changing my filter. I just built this house in 2009. I had to change the filter continuously. My water, I had a jacuzzi tub put in. My water was brown. I couldn't use it. So I brought it to Jerry Davis's attention, as a matter of fact. And so we started looking at it as early as 2009, but more so in 2011. By 2014, through the super neighborhood, then I reached out to UP, Union Pacific, because I was president at that time, and said, hey, look, can you come and talk to us and tell us what's going on this property that's a block from my house? That I could look out my back door and see the area. Grew up here. My mother was, when she passed, she was 88. Lived in the same place. So even though I didn't live at that address continuously, I was there every day.
Right.
Continuously. And so the impact, the various people that started dying of cancer, we started asking the question, what's going on? My grandfather worked at Union Pacific. My dad retired from Union Pacific. My brother just retired from Union Pacific. At that time, it was Southern Pacific. So my point is, all those little things, the issues that you all are having over here in the bottom that could possibly turn into something similar, it all comes because people are speaking up, becoming awake, and speaking up, and you have to give kudos to the leadership of those people who are saying, okay, raising your hand, we have a problem. We started talking about this in 2014 about the creosote. People couldn't even spell creosote, Robin. They were like,
I can spell it.
What? What's that? And I started working for Senator Miles in 2017.
Okay, Boris Miles,
When I started working for Senator Miles, I started asking him, I said, Boris, we've got a problem over here. I don't know what to do with it. I don't know where to go. I was a part of TOP at that time.
Texas Organized Project.
And I started talking to them about it, just talking to anybody that would listen, Robin. I didn't know what the hell to do with it. I just know we got a problem. Fifth Ward, Houston, we've got a problem. So I was just talking about it to anybody that would listen. Well, from that, my brother Joe Ballard, he started knocking on doors and say, okay, let's start meeting.
Grassroots.
And he started bringing people in. And we started meeting and talking about, well, this person died of cancer. Well, most of it we knew anyway because we've lived there all of our lives. And then we started bringing in people. Chriselle Pillay, I don't know if you know her. She's
Chriselle was very privy with her.
Yes, very smart young lady. And she's with Texas Low. At that time, Texas Low Income Housing. And we all started meeting, and then some of the members from TOPS and some of the other people that you all see now started coming in. Well, again, we talk about opportunities. Some people took that as an opportunity and took it and ran with it and created various groups. I even invited Lone Star Legal Aid. That's what people don't realize. These people, all these Judases, basically, invited them in.
You mentioned a couple of them.
And some of them took advantage of it. And still, we are where we are right now. And I believe, I could be wrong, but I believe that because some of these Judases came in and got their hands in and started seeing opportunity for themselves and creating groups, I think that they diluted the process, and it's been ongoing since 2014. Someone told me just recently, and I had some choice words with this individual. But Kathy, we all know that you all started the investigation to the creosote, but you hadn't done anything with it in 10 years. I was like Reagan on The Exorcist. My head turned around so fast. I can't say on the radio on the podcast some of the things that I told him. But I was like, really? There's a process.
It is. And
people don't understand. Some people were just looking for quick money. When UP came and offered what they call restrictive covenants to people, they came to our church where I attend, a Greater True Vine.
Okay.
And in the fellowship hall, and they had them all lined up there, and they was taking names and signing them up for $500. for their property, for their water rights. That's what restrictive covenants are. They have various things. And I was standing on my head, Robin. I know it's kind of hard to imagine me standing on my head.
No,
I was asking
like
people,
that.
please don't take that money. If they're offering you $500, they owe you $50,000 at that time.
Right.
And so people saw opportunities.
Sure, yeah.
Now, granted, let me just say, I don't think or dismiss that $500 is a lot of money to some people.
True,
I got
true.
that.
Right.
I got, but all I was just trying to say, y'all just hold out.
Yeah.
Hold out. Well, a lot of people signed up for it. So a lot of people that you all see now as it relates to the cancer cluster were some of those same people that took that money, and so they feel like they have precedence over others. And let me just say, even though we started, we still have not been offered or accepted a dime.
Wow.
You know, we haven't jumped on an opportunity to say, I want a grant, or just give me $50,000 and I'll go away. Just rebuild my house and I'll go away. No, we've not done that.
You know, I think that, and this is going to sound kind of, no, I'm going to say it anyway. So when I was in the super neighborhood, and Tim White, shout out to Tim White, was a president.
Good guy.
I was trying to figure out how can we build an alliance, even though we got the super neighborhood alliance, I get it. But that's over there. But over here between Acres Home and Fifth Ward, and we need to come together and fight and help each other fight these fights, because we can't do it by ourselves.
No, we can't. We can't. And then, and what was disturbing to me is that, because we know the impact, or we don't know, but it was the assumption of the impact along that rail line has been so great because of the loss of lives that we know from growing up in the community. And one of the meetings I started mentioning names of people who grew up in the community. Well, of course, the people who are in the forefront didn't know what the hell I was talking about. They didn't know the names because their interest was not for the people.
Right.
We need to gather the names first. And to your point, it would be good if we could all get together and sing Kumbaya. But the problem is, everybody wants to be a chief and nobody wants to be an Indian.
Yeah. Well, I can tell you some stories.
I'm older than you, so mine are probably deeper.
Yeah. Wow. Wow. You're right.
Yeah. We're our own worst enemy. And, we're our own worst enemy. And we hurt ourselves in the long run by not coming together. In the 60s, with the civil rights, if you read up on it, and I do a lot of research and reading on that, they were able to organize and be successful with a bus boycott because they worked together.
That's right.
Didn't mean that everybody agreed, but they agreed
of a common goal.
Of a common goal. That's correct. And there were a lot of hurt feet from walking to work for 2 or 3 miles, but they were committed to do it collectively.
Right.
And I know people may say, well, that was back then. Well, the hell, that wasn't that far long ago.
It wasn't.
And it made the difference.
And it's a formula. It works. All we got to do is come together, unite.
That's right.
You know
That's
what I mean?
correct.
So with HCAD, how often are there elections?
That was the very first one.
Okay.
So right now, the way it's set up, there are 9-member board members.
Okay. 3
of us elected. We have veto power over the other 6.
Wow.
Meaning that... and that's the way it was set up. If 2 of us agree or disagree with whatever the vote is, then it can cancel all the votes. You have to have the majority of us, the 3, for anything to pass. And what's important there is, for instance, I have people call me and say, well, Kathy, my taxes have gone up substantially. But heck, mine have too. But
can't you fight property taxes though? Well,
you can. You can protest.
Protest, right.
That's correct, and that's what's important here. And just so your listening audience will know, with these positions, we're basically in charge of overseeing the budget, the chief appraiser. We can hire and fire the chief appraiser, and the TLO, the tax liaison officer.
Gotcha.
And so that's the person that's sort of like that intermediary between the public and that does the research when someone has a problem, a substantial problem that's not been able to be resolved through the protest process.
Gotcha.
And the protest process is important, which is why I agreed to come here today.
I appreciate it.
It's because May 15th is approaching. That's the last day to file a protest. What is a protest, Kathy? Well, Kathy has a house that's worth $100,000. And I've lived in my house for the last 5, 10, 15 years, maybe inherited property, whatever the case may be, but it's in my family. Robin comes in with a new build and he buys a property for $200,000 or let's say $300,000. So Robin's purchase of $300,000 impacts the taxes that I've been paying on my $100,000.
Wow.
Meaning that it's going to go up, in most cases, substantially. Now, let me just say, I don't know what that formula is. I can't get into the meat and potatoes of that has to go through the appraisal district.
Gotcha.
That's not what a board of director person does. But you can file a protest like Kathy does every year on my property, be it that I'm on the board or not. I've been doing this since I was a single parent. Because I'm going to protest that Robin bought his house at $300,000. It has marble floors. It has a marble tiles bathroom. It has gold fixtures.
Oh, I got a nice place.
You got a really nice place. Iron banisters and a 3-story house. It has a garage. It has all these upgrades at $300,000. Well, Kathy's house has been around for 20, 25 years. And my ceiling is cracking. My crown molding from the heat and the ground being unlevel is becoming unglued. I have to get somebody to come in and redo it. And my caulking around my tub, my Whirlpool tub that I talked about earlier, is lifting, and I have to have that recaulked. My floors have been the same for the last 15 years. I have builder grade, keyword, appliances. Fixtures and light fixtures, etc. Well, Kathy's house the taxes on Kathy's house cannot compare to what Robin's taxes are because 1, the cost of the property, 2, the upgrades.
Right.
So I'm going to go in and argue, no, my house cannot go up to be taxed on $200,000 now because Robin's is $300,000 when mine hasn't changed.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about how they get that median. Like it's crazy how it happens.
That formula, yeah.
Wow.
That's legislative. That's legislative
state?
decision. Yes, that's state decisions, and that's why people should be. I know it's a lot, y'all. We get bombarded with so much to read. You have to have, I call it bathroom material. I know it sounds horrible, but you have to have that kind of reading material.
Yeah.
Because it's a lot.
Right.
It is a lot. And what I would suggest is if we had that group of people, committed people, like you were suggesting from the various neighborhoods, the alliance, Robbins could be, your point of it could be legislation.
Right.
Joella's could be Metro. Kathy's could be HCAD, property taxes. Everybody could take a piece of that octopus, a tentacle, and then all come back together. Say, okay, well, Robin, what did you find out on what you're in charge of? Update the entire group, but we won't do that.
It's coming. Yeah,
we won't do that, and nobody can know it all. Tim White. I met him when I was super neighborhood president. Is a good source. He could keep us enlightened about city issues, fire department issues. Y'all, nobody knows everything.
That's true.
But somebody has more knowledge than others on something.
I agree. You'd be surprised how challenging it is to galvanize people.
Oh, I wouldn't be surprised. But other people may be surprised. But yes.
Well, yeah. But it's almost discouraging sometimes.
It is so very much so. But we got to keep the fight because I believe in John 9:4. I must work the works of Him that has sent me while it's day. And He gave us of that voice. I believe also that He allowed my son to be taken so I could do exactly what I'm doing now.
Right.
And that's my commitment to people. And just know, no matter what you hear, I retired 30 years from the post office and I went to work for Senator Miles. So my husband's same thing, retired 30 years and military. So we have retirement. I would suggest that sometimes people ask some of these quote unquote community leaders, what kind of incomes are they getting? Where did they retire from? Where did you work for an extended period of time so that you can get some type of retirement? Because that way they won't be thirsty when they're identified as a leader and separate themselves from everybody else that's trying to do the work. It sounds crazy, but if you've got 5 shepherds and 1,500 sheep, why are 4 of those shepherds wanting to be the head shepherd?
Right, you're right. You're right.
And you have to ask yourself, well, why do you want to do it? What do you bring to the table? Because I'm that sheep, I'm that girl that the shepherd could be going to the end of the mountain, and all the rest of the sheep start following, and some of them jump on the end. I'm Kathy, that girl's gonna say, stop.
Hold on, y'all.
Hold up, y'all. Wait a minute.
Right.
Wait a minute. Hold up. Wait a minute.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow. That's powerful. And I'm glad you came on today because I really feel that a lot of these offices and different elected officials or whatnot, when I interview people, I want people to know exactly what this position does and how they can, at least how can they contact you if they have any kind of challenges or issues or whatnot?
Well, two things I want to say. They have to contact me through the Harris County Appraisal District.
Okay.
Obviously, it's Kathy, Kathy, Buford, Blueford, DANIELS at HCAD.org.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, org or go.
Org or good, one of the two.
Let me go. I'm getting old, y'all. I can't remember all these handles and everything. So, the other thing I want to mention that tonight at 7 o'clock at Fallbrook Church, all three of us elected board members will be there at the church, taking questions and addressing concerns that people may have as it relates to Harris Central Appraisal District.
Okay.
Again, we can't tell you how your tax rate were acquired or told, but we can give you some direction as to where you can go and find out information.
Now, how often do you guys have these meetings?
We meet once a month, every third Wednesday. That's a good question. Thank you for that.
Okay.
Every third Wednesday, and if a person has a problem with that they want to address to the board of directors, then they have to come to the board meeting at 9:30 on 290, and I think that's West Hillsborough.
Okay.
On the Northwest Freeway.
Okay.
I can't remember all these. I'm sorry. I had my information pulled up right here on my phone, so I could give you all that information because I kind of figured it might come up. I didn't make me a cheat sheet. I just got in this morning, my husband and I, off the flight, so I didn't make me a note of cheat sheet. But they're having.
I try to keep it as organic as possible. That's kind of on me, so I didn't prepare her, y'all.
No. It's okay because if y'all can see, I got a whole lot of information up here that I don't mind sharing. But if you want to go to the website, that would be the best place to start.
Okay.
And I know a lot of people in our communities, not just here, but over in our communities, don't have access to the web. I got that.
Yeah.
I understand.
Yeah.
So get your son or your daughter, your niece and nephew, or even hell, like me, get your grandkids to get on HCAD.org. And there's a lot of information there. There's information property tax workshops, which is happening tonight again at Fallbrook Church. It's going to be a question and answering session. So if you can't get on the computer, then heck, call information. Like we used to call 411 and ask them where's Fallbrook Church, although I'll give you that address.
All right.
But ask them where is Fallbrook Church so that if people are having an opportunity to be able to go, there would be a perfect time to do it tonight.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. I'm just so excited. Before we leave, I want to say I appreciate you because when I ran for District B, and I had a comment on one of my posts, and it pricked my heart, man. It was you. You said, "Hey, I'm proud of what you did." You know what I mean? I said, coming from you to hear that, I was like, wow, somebody was actually watching, you know what I mean? And so I appreciate that, you know.
And I thank you for all your work. I was intending to make this past Christmas decoration.
Oh, tree lighting, yeah.
Tree lighting. I initiated that in Fifth Ward as well.
Oh, good deal.
Based on what you all were doing and what they were doing in Third Ward. So, like I said,
Home did it first, y'all.
They did. That's for sure. And that's what I'm saying.
Right.
What does it say when you mimic somebody or copy somebody? It's the biggest form of flattery. I saw you guys doing it out here. I saw you guys doing it with the fire truck coming out and helping with the tree. So that's how we initiated that. We just started that until 2016. 16 in 5th Ward. And we want to give the people in the community something to be proud of as well.
Right. That's what it's for.
Yeah, that's how, and trust me, I don't know how you started it, but I started it with my own money.
I started with my own money, and just like I say, God was involved. And
that's right.
The following year, we had a bigger tree that was donated to us. We've just been using it ever since, you know what I mean? And so, but it's for community pride, to bring people together and say, hey, look, this is our community, and and even giving out the toys and the food and stuff is. I don't want to keep doing that. Yeah. But if I have to, I will. Yeah. But we want to make sure and start teaching people how to buy their own toys. That's and if you got to get a better job. But anyway, this ain't about me. It's about you.
Well, no. I agree with that. Teach a man to fish, and you feed him for a lifetime. So I got that, as opposed to just continuously giving someone a fish. Yeah. But I want you to share this address. Fallbrook Church is at 12512 Walters Road. Okay. That's not far from here, and it's 77014, and that's at 7:00. And I know, look, someone called me and she was asking me about her taxes and she called me when I was on the school board. I'm not going to say her name, but she's very, very sincere in what she does. She's always trying to help somebody else, and oftentimes she needs help herself. And so she said, Kathy, I need you to help me, and da 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 da. And I said, okay. We'll get together next week, because I knew this week was going to be very, very busy for me. But my point is, where I'm going with this is, she said, well, Kathy, I don't like to talk in front of audience. I don't speak well enough at A, B, C, D. Bull. Just get up and start talking.
So, just speak from your heart. Yeah.
Speak from your heart. It doesn't have to be articulated a certain way. That's when we get caught in this trick bag. Because trust me, when I was on that school board and I was fighting for our children, I said some things, honey. I wasn't trying to be bougie. I was just trying to make my point. And I said some things that needed to be said. And sometimes that's what it takes. Sometimes that's the only way people understand. So that's the most important thing, is to speak from the heart. Speak for yourself, speak up for yourself, and speak up for others.
That's true. So, wow.
I want to share that. But no,
I appreciate that.
Please, just don't think that things have to be articulated a certain way. They don't. They absolutely don't when you speak from the heart.
Wow. Gotcha. I appreciate that. So, however, you know what? We definitely got to talk about that coalition, because I haven't talked to Ms. Stevens in a while. Either way. But, my first thing is to galvanize the people here in Acres Home first, and then we're going to be able to go out there to the Northeast end, because, when I ran, my campaign slogan was building the community through unity. Right. And I think I was a little ahead of my time. Yeah. But it's still we need it now.
And sometimes that happens. We get ahead of our time. And not that we're the sharpest knife in the drawer, but we sometimes see a bigger picture than the immediate. Because some people get caught up in tunnel vision as opposed to looking at long-term goals. Well, again, my background is such in management that's what I had to forecast and prepare accordingly for every week, every day. Life is about planning for the most part. We don't know what part of it we're going to get to, but we still have to plan it.
That's true.
Short-term goals, long-term goals, etc. And every year, as a manager at the post office, I had to say, well, what is my staffing going to be like in May? Well, what happens in May? Mother's Day.
Yeah.
So I have to plan accordingly. Yeah. Forecast. Well, okay. Well, let me get my staffing ready for Christmas. But when do I start? In September.
Yep, early on. Yep.
Because everybody starts promoting Christmas in September.
That's
so
true.
It's about forecasting. January, I should say, okay, we just got past New Year's. What do I have to plan for next with my staffing? Valentine's Day.
Yep.
Because all the mail that's going to come through there.
I couldn't stand those ad votes and all. Was it Wednesdays? All the sale papers go out.
Tuesdays and Wednesdays, ad votes. That's right. That's where the post office makes most of their money. Wow. That's where people retain their jobs. So be very, very careful about.
I'm just saying, I didn't like it because I used to carry mail.
So you did. I know that. Tuesdays and Wednesdays. But people call it junk mail. That pays a lot of salaries, y'all.
Interesting. I didn't know that.
I mean, put it in, when you get it, put it in whatever you do with it. I'm not going to tell you what to do with it.
Right.
When you get it, do what you do with it. Use it for your dog, peeing, or kennel, or whatever. But just know that pays a lot of, they're the biggest advertisers for the post office.
I didn't know that.
And it pays a lot of money.
Interesting.
A lot of carriers, a lot of salaries.
Okay, gotcha. Duly noted. So you got promised to come back, because I think we have these type of podcasts, like, at least once or twice a year, so people can kind of know what's going on and kind of be updated and whatnot. You got to come back. Do you promise?
I absolutely will come back.
Okay.
You know, like I said, my grandparents was OLMG priests. I mean,
Okay.
My son's right here at Cemetery Beautiful, so I'm out here often. But Acres Homes is still a staple in my heart and part of my growing up. And I'd like to see sort of what you're talking about. Perhaps maybe we should broaden this podcast, widen the podcast and bring some other people in and have them committed on camera and to the audience that, I will work the works of him that sent me because it's daylight, as opposed to my own personal choice of what I'm trying to do. So.
Yeah, most definitely.
I will be back.
And this is my thing to say, because I've learned how to, I found my lane, because what happens when...
That's right.
You know, when you start to endorse people, sometimes the other person get mad and this and that. That's why I say this is not political endorsement podcast.
That's correct.
It's open to everybody.
Right.
You know, and you speak your piece.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so that way, I'm not trying to offend people. I've done it, and it wasn't intentional.
Well, you know, I'm retired. I'm not trying to move up anywhere. I'm not trying to use it as a platform. So I'm at the point in my life, I'm not looking for a job. So I don't even care a whole lot about what people think at this point. So I'm not trying to impress anybody. And I think I've gotten where I've gotten because I have not been trying to impress anybody. I'm so authentic, 100%. I mean, I'm transparent. So when I say some of these words out here, y'all, I'm trying to say, okay, Kathy, I heard Kathy saying ABCD. Yeah, I said it.
So with that being said, y'all, make sure, you know, I'm selling T-shirts. Go to PoliceStreet.com, buy a T-shirt. There's a donation button on the website as well. This is all coming out of my pocket, my dime. But this is community work, you know. And but you know, I appreciate anything y'all give to me. So until next time. It's Kathy Buford-Daniels. I appreciate you. What's your son's name? That was Pat.
Patrick Charles Murphy. And y'all stay focused again. I'm gonna shut up talking in a minute. When I commented on your Facebook page, I wanted you to know that people are watching you. My grandmother always said that, and that I'm not trying to offend anybody, but my grandmother always said, as a girl, when we at the time wearing little short dresses, she said, always wear clean underwear because you never know if you're gonna fall, and don't wear them with the holes in them. So the reason why. Always preparing because you don't know when you're going to fall, and you have to be prepared. You have to be prepared. You have to stay prepared. So,
I appreciate that.
But that's what we're here for. Is don't know everything, but I know a little bit about something.
You know a lot of bit, yeah. I'm watching too. You know, so
people are always watching you. I always said that people are always watching, and y'all know if you fall, somebody's sure watching.
They sure are watching. They are. You're right.
Not sure. They sure watching. It's a difference. They're not surely watching. They show watching.
They show watching, right? So, hey, y'all, until next time, y'all. Peace.
Thank you.
All right.
Definitely want to give a shout out to Politically Street, man. That's one of the coldest names you can have. Because we out here in these streets, but these politics is trickling down, so it's all intertwined, man. So we got to figure out how to work it the way we work. So shout out to Politically Street.